On today's episode, you'll hear the key takeaways from our real estate conversations. This is the Be a Marketer podcast, Real Estate Edition.
Be a Marketer.
My name is Dave Charest, Director of Small Business Success at Constant Contact, and I help small business owners like you make sense of online marketing. And on this podcast, we'll explore what it really takes to market your business, even if marketing's not your thing. No jargon, no hype, just real stories to inspire you and practical advice you can act on. So remember, friend, you can be a marketer. And at Constant Contact, we're here to help. Well, hello, friend, and thanks for joining us for the final episode in our limited series of real estate podcasts. That means, who do we have? We've got Kelsi Carter. Hi, Kelsi.
Hi, Dave.
We've got Stephanie Alfonso. Hello, Steph.
Hello, hello.
So, wow, here we are, the final episode, and at least we'll see what we come up with for the future. But at least for now, this is the final episode in our series of real estate-focused episodes. Steph, we did it. Thank you so much for your help and your guidance in all of this and finding some amazing guests for us.
Yeah, it was awesome. So thankful that we got to do this. Honestly, it was kind of like a passion project for me. You know, I'm passionate about the industry and helping real estate agents become better marketers. To date, guys, I don't think I've ever met a real estate professional that was like, you know what? I love marketing so much, I'm going to become a real estate agent. Like, has not happened, right? Quite the contrary. Most real estate professionals, when they go into the industry, it is the bane of their existence, right?
Well, and the same for what we see with just our small business owners in general, right? So I think there's a common theme across whatever industry that you're in.
100%. Yeah. So I want to flip the narrative. And I really feel like the past 5 episodes, we've been able to get some insights behind the scenes of some rock stars in our industry. Hopefully we got to empower some of our listeners to be like, all right, I'm going to do this one thing, or I'm going to do these 2 things this year, and it's going to make a difference in my business. So I'm hoping we made a difference. I certainly loved the conversations we had, and it made a difference for me and for my own learning. Super awesome.
Yeah, agreed. So I think what we decided to do here on this final episode is really take a moment, because I think you're right. There were so many things that did come up that were, one, specific to the industry, but also applicable across industries. And, I think that's one of the things that I learned is, I think as you look at all of this, it's really, yes, you do have the nuances, but then the concepts and the theory, right? It goes into what you can use and apply no matter what industry that you're in. And so what we decided we would do here today is we each came, and we don't know what our answers are, but we're going to go through each episode. So if you didn't get a chance to catch them out, you should, because these will dive deeper into those things. But we're going to pick our favorite kind of takeaway or key thing that we got from each of these episodes. So we each have one of those for each episode that we had with our guests. And we're going to just talk through them a bit and see if maybe we've matched some, maybe we haven't, but I think it'll be good stuff for you to hear. Like, hey, these are the things that, as folks that have looked at this from a marketing lens, you specifically in real estate stuff, Kelsi kind of with a newbie's eye as well, and then kind of how I've been looking at some of this stuff. This will give you some highlighted things that, hey, you know what, these are things that I should be looking at in my business, no matter what that is, so that you can maybe prioritize some things maybe that you want to do in your marketing journey as you grow with your business as well. So, sound good?
Sounds
great.
Awesome.
All right, cool.
I'm so excited. It was so hard to pick just one.
I know. It was very difficult, but sometimes
some of them were kind of broad that I chose.
Well, and sometimes you have to be specific, right? You have to pick sometimes. I think this is one of the things that you learn as a business owner is that you're going to have to make tons of decisions, and sometimes you just have to make a decision. And so we just chose. So I'm going to start with Kelsi. Let's hear the Kelsi's wonderful voice here. Episode 1, Marky Lemon's Ryle. Amazing conversation. What was your big takeaway from that episode?
Yeah, so I've had a lot, but I think for the main one from Marky is just something that you don't hear a lot of people say is giving away your knowledge. And I know that she had an overall theme of consistency, but that really stood out for me because you have a lot of people, especially in business, that once they find something that works, they like to hold on to it for themselves and kind of like gatekeep that. But Marky is very pro, I will show you and teach you everything I know because I want you to be able to do it. And that's also a way for her to build trust, and it also positions herself as an expert to other people in the industry. So, and that can be applied to like her marketing, her coaching. So I just thought that was something that was really valuable and something you don't hear often.
Oh, yeah, I agree with that. That was something so great. Well, I forgot what the quote was, something that she said, if you've learned something, give it away or something like that. But yeah, I love that. And she exudes that just in her everyday.
Yeah. I mean, that was something to, not to jump ahead, but also something we heard from Anthony, right? You have to be educating. And I think maybe this is the big thing just in general when you think about what marketing is. And I think particularly when you look at what marketing is today, I think there is a difference between advertising, which is really about kind of getting a message in front of people, whereas marketing is really about communicating with people and building those relationships and then hopefully driving them towards some type of action. But when you think of that, it is really about education is the way in, right? Because you're trying to help people solve a problem, help people with a challenge. And in that education and sharing your knowledge with them, you're also demonstrating your expertise, which allows you to prove out and even sell yourself to people. So, like when people do reach out to you and maybe want you to hire you or want to hire you, or whatever the case may be, is they're already sold because you've already shown them how you think. You've already shown them how you solve problems, right? And they're bought into your ideas and your ways of doing things.
Yeah. Anthony said, when you educate, you attract. And I think he was spot
Mm,
on with that.
yeah.
And that's something that was a reoccurring theme with almost all of our guests in this series was they're just really big on coaching and educating and training. So that's definitely something to take close to heart.
I think like another thing going off of, you educate to motivate too, because as you're continuing to learn, you're going to have to continue to innovate and adapt as well because things are constantly changing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So give away your knowledge. Love that. Steph, what did you have for Marky?
So for Marquis, when I really had to drill down what was the core of what I learned from her, she is no nonsense. She keeps it real. She keeps it honest. And I really loved her genuine approach at reminding us that we do work for money, right? We are in for-profit business. So to make smart decisions with the bottom line, with your bottom line in mind, right? Just being smart about the decisions that you make. And it is okay to say, hey, this is a decision that I'm making purely because it is going to increase my bottom line.
Yeah. Well, similarly, I want to jump off that a little bit. So I had for Marky, just diversify your income streams. I thought it was just great the way she talked through it and really gave away this idea that you shouldn't just rely on commissions,
Yeah, that's
right?
right. That's right.
There's multiple ways that you can generate revenue in the work that you do. And I thought really thinking through that, and if you look at just Marquis as the example herself, how she leverages what she's doing from a content creation standpoint. She's publishing books based on the podcast. She's got speaking, she's got all of this stuff that she does, and she's really advising agents to do the same thing, right? To really look for those alternative revenue sources, even if it's just referral business in many instances. Instead of getting licenses in other states, she's just looking for referral business to those other states and things like that. And so I thought it was just a great idea to really start thinking, like, how do you stop thinking about real estate as just selling homes, but really do think of it in that with that entrepreneurial spirit and running a business, and then looking for the multiple ways you can generate revenue with it. I thought was a really holistic view to take on it that I think was beneficial.
Yeah. I also loved how Marky gave us also a glimpse into she was born and bred out of a long line of entrepreneurs within her family, and just kind of the lessons that she learned along the way from that. And just how, when you are kind of brought up in that environment, just how that kind of shapes your view on the world and the drive that she has to get out there and give all her knowledge away. And yet at the same time, she's never lacking because she's just always doing something different and learning.
Yeah.
So it's really
Yeah.
cool.
So our second in our series was an interview with Christine George. Steph, let's start with you this time. What did you find most interesting or learn from our conversation with Christine?
Yeah. So Christine is an agency and she does marketing on behalf of real estate professionals. And so loved her take on just branding and just, she's kind of on the other side of things where she is the marketer, right? She is the one who is empowering and helping agents to do their marketing. And the thing that I really took from Christine is that marketing is not a one size fits all. And obviously that's something that she really needs to focus on all the time as she's working with so many different brands. And, she really talks a lot about finding what you're passionate about and not looking to the right and to the left of you, what everyone else is doing, to find your sweet spot. She says some things that people would be like, oh my gosh, she's like, if video's not your thing, don't do video, right? Whereas so many of us were like, do video, do video, do video. It's so important. And it is. But I love how Christine has such a great way of tapping into everyone that she works with, what their strengths are, and doubling down on that, right? Because there's so many ways to skin a cat, right? There's so many ways to be successful in this industry. And she does an incredible job of really spelling out how we can lean into that individually.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of looked at this too in the, specifically honed in on that idea of like really defining your niche and then owning that. And so it kind of couples with what you're saying here, right? Is finding that thing about you that is really important, because I think it's a marriage of those two things, right? It's really about taking what it is that you're passionate about, what are your strengths, what are your experiences, and then aligning that with who are the people that you want to serve? What is it that you want to do? What is the market that you're trying to go after? And then really, really focus on that, because then that allows you to build a brand that allows you to attract the right clients to your business, right? So
Yeah.
I love that. Kelsi, what did you have for Christine's episode?
Well, I was going to say that also kind of brings in intentionality. I feel like she's very intentional. And with that, she doesn't just mean, because when you think of branding, initially you're just thinking of like colors, logos, but it's about more than that. But branding, you also want to know who your client is. You want to know what your messaging is, your focus is, what your strength is, so that you can be intentional and target that audience and also cultivate a message that's specifically for them. So I think that was really important for her too. And that stood out for me as just like intentionality was really important.
And several of our guests really talked about that storytelling, about how branding yourself and what that marketing message really comes down to telling your story, and oftentimes storytelling, Verl talks a lot about it, is just ultimately will show people who you are, and people are going to remember how you made them feel and all that good stuff. So whether it's through email, video, social media, the ones who really lean into that storytelling are going to stand out.
Yeah. Our third episode, Verl Workman. I'm going to jump in here on this one. I just loved everything about just the ease with which we had a conversation with Verl, for one. But also, I just love that idea of really understanding how to create sustainable success. And you'd have to delegate and create these systems. I loved how really he stressed that idea of that, like, look, if you want to advance and you want to scale, you should not be spending your time doing $20 an hour tasks.
Mm.
And I thought that's like eye-opening in many instances, because I think it's very easy for us all to get into the weeds of our work, because sometimes I think there are things that we enjoy doing. And I don't know how much you want to let go of those. But also there's the reality that if you're spending your time doing that, you're not spending your time doing something that's actually going to have more of an impact on what you can do and where you can go with your business. And so I think it was a really great reminder to hear that. I also thought that magic number rule, I would call it, right? That idea of like, if there's anything that you're doing 3 times or more, you got to create a system for it. You got to figure out like, how do you make this repeatable? How are you able to then pass that work off to somebody else, because they know the system, they know what they need to do. I thought that was really important. And then just that idea of just daily success, tracking what's going on. So, because I think part of the conversation was this idea of being predictable, right? Knowing what you're going to achieve by really paying attention to what it is that you're doing, and then focusing and prioritizing those things that are, again, going to move you forward rather than hold you back.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of that is encompassed into how much Verl leans into the value of teams in the real estate industry. Teams are becoming such a backbone of the industry. It is becoming a tool that brokers are using for recruiting, right? It's like we have teams and the teams recruit. And so that is taking a lot off of the broker's shoulders as far as those recruitment and retention efforts. But the idea of teams goes right along what Verl always talks about as far as delegation and having systems and processes in place. Oftentimes, the functionality of that runs really well within a team. He was saying like, how many successful organizations are just one person, right?
One person. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kelsi, what'd you have in there?
Stephanie and Dave, you guys echoed it perfectly. I had delegate to elevate
Oh,
because
there you
it's
go.
a
I
great
like
way
it.
to remind it, because you can't be successful in business by yourself. And then also too, just to make your life easier. And as you want to grow and as you want to start stepping back, you have to have these systems in place to be able to do so.
Yep.
So delegate to elevate, everyone. Hashtag.
I like that, Kelsi. I would actually like to put that on a t-shirt.
I'll make it for you. It'll be your Christmas present.
One thing I don't want to forget to talk about too, something that I've always valued about Burl, is the emphasis he puts on family.
Yeah.
And oftentimes as entrepreneurs, right, will say that we work 24 hours a day and, we've got so much on our shoulders and a day off, what's that? And he rejects that mentality. He really talks about, again, having systems and processes in place, cultivating team environments allows you to live the life that you've always dreamed of having, right? We work to live, we don't live to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really think that he is just like a walking, talking example of how you can have it all. The family life, be able to take vacations, be able to be well rested and have a healthy lifestyle. So many real estate professionals, probably, I would dare say the majority, have families, right? So we need to be business owners. We also need to have a balance in our life with our family. And I just love how Verl talks a lot about that.
Yeah. I mean, just to add to that, I just love how he has his families involved in the business, right? It's so.
That's what I was going to say. I love that he started it with his daughter.
Yeah. It got me thinking about a couple of things too the other day.
I
like,
know.
You two twin girls there.
Right. So I don't know. That's very cool. Yeah. I think that's the big thing to take away from this is that we do get to decide, or you get to decide as the business owner, and you don't have to choose running yourself ragged. You can choose doing the things that grow your business, but then also grow you as a human as well. And I think that's a good tip there. All right. Number 4, we had Ian Hoover. Kelsi, what'd you have for Ian?
Ian Hoover. So for him, my takeaway was that recruiting agents is critical. And then you also don't want to just hire someone based on, I guess, star power, if that makes sense, that you want to hire someone based on their potential, because people can work up. So you don't necessarily immediately have a top seller right when you get them. You train them, but that's how you train them in the way that like works in the process that you want. And then also that creates loyalty within your business. So I just feel like that is super relevant, because I feel like a lot of people try to go after top producers when really they should be looking in-house or looking closer to turn agents into those high performers.
Yeah. It's almost like that niche discussion again, almost, right? Like he's very clear on the type of agent that he wants to attract to his brokerage so that he has people that, one, are a good fit for the framework or the culture of the business itself, but also it leans into, I think, the strengths that he can offer, right? So he's able to train somebody up where if somebody's already at the top, right, like he might not be beneficial to that agent as much as someone that's, has room to grow, right? So I think that's really important as well. Steph, what'd you have?
So just real quick, I wanted to just comment on what you observed,
Yeah.
Kelsi. And I love hearing what Kelsi has to say, because Kelsi's in the background, right? Just listening like the little church mouse.
I know. I don't know if people know this, that I do listen into these and I take notes in the background. So I will give props to Steph for finding these people, because they really know their stuff.
Yeah, they were super great. Yeah. So I loving hearing your insight, Kelsi. But just kind of piggybacking, I had a mentor say to me one time that whenever he's hiring people, right, he hires for talent and he trains for skill. I love that. It's been something that's always kind of resonated in my mind when we think about who we bring along and when we talk about brokers recruiting, what they look for. And Ian really does embody that. And so, and again, because I know him and because I've met the folks in his office, you truly see that environment of like support and growth there. But so going into my biggest takeaway really lines up with that, is all about culture. And culture in a brokerage is the best way to retain your talent and, of course, build good talent. Culture can mean so many different things, and every brokerage can have a little bit of a different culture. I've been to brokerages that were very polished, right? Like everybody was dressed very professional. The office was beautiful. Nothing wrong with that. That was kind of the culture and it was fun. It was still enjoyable. And then with other cultures, Ian's, I felt like it was just fun. You go in there, they had a pool table. They were all friends, they were all talking like they knew each other's families. And it really made you feel like you are just like part of a friend group, right? They were all there to help each other. They were celebrating each other's wins. There were several teams within, but even all the teams collaborated together. So it just was super awesome. And I love that that's something that they hang their hat on. And to your point, Kelsi, it's not about recruiting the number one agent in Pennsylvania. It was more like what fits within this group because everybody has their place. So, yeah.
Yep. Who has the right attitude and the right drive for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's all about finding the people that fit in with what it is that you're trying to do and believe in that mission, right? And believe in, right, here we go. We're trying to achieve a common goal, right? So it's all of that. And one of the things that I took away from our conversation with Ian that I thought was also very interesting and something very applicable to any business at this point in the game, but it's really about that idea of embracing AI and automation and just really even thinking about the tools. I mean, hopefully if you're a constant contact customer listening, you're really recognizing how, AI and automation that come into all of this, it's really a game changer in many instances about just thinking about how you can be more efficient in terms of like creating and automating stuff you'll do on social media, which you're constantly having to feed, improving how you're communicating in many instances. I know we mentioned at the top here that not everyone is a marketer by trade. And so sometimes finding the right words or how to frame something to promote something that you've been working on can be difficult. AI, of course, can come help with all of those things, even something as simple as strategy or just even ideas and things like that, and helping you figure out, okay, what do I need to do next? And so to Ian's point and many of this, like AI isn't really about the future anymore. It's here, it's the present. And if you're not using it, I think you're really starting to fall behind in many instances already.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. So many areas, of course, AI, automation, digital marketing in general, right? It's not an option anymore. When I started working with agents over a decade ago, it was, we kind of talked about like, hey, how many of you are on social media? Hey, it might be a good idea. And it's, we coach in such different ways now. And then also because it's not an option, we need to be sending an email once a week. We need to be on social media multiple times a week. We need to make sure that we're creating content. Therefore, we need to leverage AI. But it is also easier than ever before to do so, right? Because of the advancements that we have in AI, it's easier to be a marketer in 2025 than it ever has been ever. So I love that I get to coach on like, hey, here's how you can use AI to do the things instead of just here's how to do the things.
Yeah. Well, but I think it's also important to bring up to your point, like it is easier than ever, but it also can feel very overwhelming because of that fact that it's so easy and that there are so many things to do. And I just want to remind folks listening that as you're thinking about this, if you are feeling overwhelmed, I think the idea here in any of this is it's all about prioritization. It's all about thinking, like, okay, what do I need to do right now based on where I am at with my business? And then eliminate the noise of the other things so that you can focus on those highest priority items to get things done. Because once you start, I think there's a difference between spinning your wheels because there's so much to do versus focusing and getting things done and starting to check things off those lists, which then grow upon each other and start to compound, right? You get the snowball going in many instances and you're building a strong foundation. So if you're starting to feel overwhelmed, strip away the noise, focus on what's most important to you and actually get going on those things, because I think that's where you start to, because it is so easy, it's also very easy to get overwhelmed.
Yeah. Good point. Good point. It's true. We talk about it's easier than it ever was before.
Yeah.
And then somebody's sitting back there going, but wait, it doesn't feel easy to me, right? So,
right. Yeah. Yeah, totally. So our last episode here was Anthony Lamacchia. Steph, what did you learn from our friend, Mr. Lamacchia?
So fun conversation. I love how Anthony is just a fireball of energy. And I really took away from him that to live and work unapologetically, people truly are attracted to passion. People are attracted to energy. And so I think that's something that he lives, he exudes. He is somebody who was a big player in the industry the past 2 years, when I say a player, a voice with everything that's going on with the National Association of Realtors, the market and the industry was rough, right? Inventory was low, interest rates were high, agents were struggling, agents weren't producing, NAR was going through all of their stuff. And Anthony really came in like a wrecking ball, just being such an advocate for the realtor. And, he self-proclaims it really put him on the map as far as a voice, even though he's been a successful brokerage. But that's what I take from him. And so many things he said are great and valuable, educate to attract, and just his upbringing as a marketer in the landscaping biz. But what I really think is unique about him and has driven his success is he's passionate about what he does. He's bold. He says to be bold as his greatest takeaway, right? And the things that you do. And the energy that you put out there is going to attract what kind of success you bring to yourself.
Yeah. You mentioned the wrecking ball, and all I could picture was Anthony like swinging on a wrecking ball in like a commercial, because I feel like this would be something that he would do, right?
Oh, I was going to say, dude, Anthony, if you're listening, give us the shout out when you make a commercial like this, because I totally could see it.
Yeah. Kelsi, what'd you have?
Play the effing game. No.
Oh,
So something
wow. All right.
that stood out to me for him. He was very much like, marketing is the game and he knows how to play it. So when he finds a strategy, he just goes all right in, he taps right into it. But he's also prepared for when that stops working, because things are constantly changing, trends, strategies. So you have to constantly monitor, test, and adjust. And that's something that I think he's tapped into very well.
Yeah. Well, speaking of tapping into, right, that's what I had, was finding that marketing vein and doubling down on that thing, right? If you can figure out, because this is ultimately what marketing is, it's understanding what are the things that are keeping your audience up at night? What are the things that they're constantly thinking about? What's going on in their world? How can you insert yourself in there and be part of that, be a voice within that story that they're already telling themselves, and helping them get to the places and achieve the things that they need to do? And I think really looking at finding what that is and then really going for it, right? Leaning into that, and then recognizing that, of course, as we've been talking about, like, it's not always going to be there. It may dry up at a certain point, but being aware enough to pay attention to when that is drying up, so you know when you need to find that next thing. And I think of it time and time again. And I was doing some math the other day and it hurt my brain for a little bit, but then I was like, wow, we've been really doing this for 19 plus years. And really, I haven't really been talking about many things that different in terms of foundationally from a marketing perspective, but it is how you're presenting the story and what changes and what the narrative is kind of at the time and what people are focused on and thinking about, right? And it's really finding those things. And so just a big proponent of that is, once you find that thing that works, really scale it up, but realize that you need to stay adaptable and pivot when necessary.
Right. Just because something works today doesn't mean it's going to work a year from now, right? And sometimes things come in cycles. Sometimes there's the hot thing to do right now and the thing that's popular right now. And then maybe that will dry up. And again, like Anthony says, you got to find another vein. But something I really value that Anthony is, as much as he's adaptable and he's always, got his finger in the wind and making sure he understands what the direction the industry is going in. But he also knows the fundamentals of what works. A lot of times, you guys know, we hear all the time, email marketing, is that still a thing, right? Or is email marketing still a thing? And Anthony will get fired up about it. And he's like, heck yes. And if you're not doing it, what is wrong with you, right? Like, that's a fundamental. And, although different strategies might change or messaging might change, but he also understands the value. He's the one that's going to say, yeah, I'll do a billboard. Yeah, I'll do postcards. I'll do all the things that are considered quote unquote old school. But you've got to be flexible and understanding that messages change, different seasons change. The way you market in Massachusetts in the winter could be a little different, right? Than what you do in the summer, especially like when he talks about his family business in the landscaping business. But yeah, so it's just having that nice blend of being innovative, being willing to adapt and change, but also understanding what the fundamentals are with consistent marketing.
Yeah. Well, you're not going to get an argument for me on the fundamentals piece. I'm a big believer in that. I think you have to build a strong foundation in order to earn the right, in many instances, to try these other things or go chasing something. Because if you've got those fundamentals in place, they give you the basis to grow. They give you the ability to sell things, to have something that's working for you so that you can then say, all right, I'm going to chase this idea. I'm going to try this thing. But if you do that without the foundation, well, then you're always chasing and you've got nothing to support you in the background. And so, yeah, I love that idea. Well, we heard so many things across these episodes. I hope you'll go back and listen to them. If you're just catching up with us now, you've heard some things that may have piqued your interest a bit, but so many kind of things to hear. I'm glad, Steph, you were able to bring these amazing people to us for this series of episodes that we did here specific to real estate. So I wanted to maybe throw it to you before we close up here today, but any kind of final parting words or any thoughts of just this experience, or what you think is really important for folks in the real estate industry to be thinking about right now?
Yeah. So a couple things. First, a lot of people, when I came to Constant Contact, they asked me, knowing that I've been in the industry for a while, they're like, oh, is Constant Contact, we know that they're the giants in small business, but they're real estate also. And it kind of makes me laugh a little bit because it's like, hey, listen, real estate, we're small business owners, right? Like we are absolutely within that vein of what Constant Contact really helps with, right? Especially when we think about one of the fundamentals in digital marketing is maximizing and nurturing your database, right? That's a non-negotiable. Our list in the real estate industry, 86% of our business comes from it. It's our lifeline. It's everything. It's where all of our business comes from. And so it was really a passionate decision for me, knowing that I got to work in the real estate industry with a company that focuses on the most important thing that an agent needs to be doing for their business. So that's one thing. The other thing is why I'm just really excited is to really give the real estate industry an even louder voice in the marketing space. I think there are so many incredible entrepreneurs that come out of this space, whether they are actual agents or brokers or people in tech, or there's just such a world that I think that we're able to get a better glimpse into how the sausage is made. Is that how we say that? Behind the scenes in the industry, and what makes it tick and what matters to a real estate professional. What kind of tech do they use? What kind of tech is going to really move the needle when it comes to lead generation? Where are the areas we really should be tapping into if we're buying leads? So there's so many discussions I am excited to have with us in the future. I really feel like we've just kind of cracked the surface. But at the end of the day, the common theme that we have across, I think, anybody that would ever come on Be a Marketer is just that reoccurring theme that we are entrepreneurs, that we have to lean into marketing. We have to lean into these common themes that all make our businesses run and tick. And there's so much more that we have in common than we think. So I'm just excited to give us a little more verticalized conversation around marketing.
Yeah. So I'll say this for the listener. We typically end these with an action item. And I'll say this for this episode. We talked about a lot. We revealed things that stood out to us as we had these conversations with people. If there's something in this conversation here today that resonated with you, find that episode where we talked about that particular thing, go back and listen to it, but find that thing that resonated with you and create an action plan, right? Put some time in the calendar to think about that. So what does that mean if I were to apply that to my business, no matter what business that you're in? Because really, the only way things happen with this, and I know you know this about your business, you have a business because you took those steps to start a business. And it's the same thing with marketing or anything that we're talking about here. The only way you move forward and you grow is by taking those steps to do the things that we're talking about here. You can't just think about them, you have to do them. And so as I think about the things that we've done through this series, grateful, of course, to Kelsi Carter. Kelsi, thank you for being here with us as always. It was good to hear your voice a little bit more in this episode.
I know. I gotta take a lozenge. It's a little strange from talking so much.
You made my wheezing come out. And then, and Steph Alfonso, of course, thank you for, again, lining up these amazing guests and sharing your insights and expertise into the real estate industry. So really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Nice having you on, Steph.
It was my pleasure. I loved every moment of it, guys. Thank you so much. You guys, Be a Marketer is such a great thing going on here, and I'm excited to do more.
Yeah, maybe stay tuned for part 2. Who knows?
We'll see.
Teaser.
Friends, thanks as always for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye, friends.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Be a Marketer podcast. Please take a moment to leave us a review. Just go to ratethispodcast.com/BAM. Your honest feedback will help other small business marketers like yourself find the show. That's ratethispodcast.com/BAM. Well, friend, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and continued success to you and your business.